Welcome to Negotiating Happiness, the show that helps you find happiness, success, and balance in your work and life. I'm Adriana, your host for this journey into entrepreneurship and personal growth. We're broadcasting live on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans as part of the United Public Radio Network. We explore the latest strategies, insights, and stories from successful entrepreneurs and experts. From managing stress to building a thriving business, we've got you covered. Good afternoon, everybody. This is your host, Adriana, and you are listening to Negotiating Happiness on 107.7 and 105.3 FM in New Orleans on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. If you wanted to sit back and relax and watch some of our shows on your big screen TV, you just have to go to Roku TV and type in UFO Paranormal. Today it is November 4th, and I can't believe that it is November already. I am here with Avalon. Hello, Avalon. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm super excited for today's episode. We will be talking about the vibe check, the good old vibe check, and how to show up in your brand and how to convey energy to anybody that you meet. And I can't wait to see what snippets and golden nuggets of advice that you give us. So everybody just grab your coffee, grab your lunch, and join us. And if you don't have time to listen to the whole episode, just remember that you can go on any of our archived platforms on SoundCloud or YouTube, and you can find us there. So let's dive in a little bit. So today's guest, Avalon from Avalon Mohns Photography. Who is she? So from snapping party pics at 17 to running an award-winning photography business, our guest's journey is a testament to passion and resilience. Starting with a dream internship in fashion, they found their calling behind the lens, later becoming marketing director for a natural hair care brand and honing their skills in product photography. In 2023, they took the leap to full-time entrepreneurship, earning the Reader's Choice Award for Best Photography Services in Orangeville, Ontario, and hosting content creation workshops. Now, they've helped hundreds of business owners elevate their brands with photos that drive real results. Avalon's mission is to help female entrepreneurs not only scale their business, but connect with their highest vision and get photos that allow them to show up as their most empowered selves. Her philosophy is that no business owner should have to compromise on the dreams they have for their brand. Her brand photography packages do deep work to uncover what your business is truly about, resulting in photos that feel totally unique to you and create momentum for content creation and growth. I will show you guys snippets of Avalon's website because I love it, and it has so much personality, and it is what I say is a perfect example of, this is what the brand is about. The moment you click on that homepage, you just know and you feel it, which I love.
Thank you. That's awesome. It was a labor of love, right? It was me finally stepping into how do I want to show up authentically? And I think that becomes really hard for business owners because we're constantly bombarded with a lot of brand imagery and branding that looks the same, right? Because things are trending. And then when we see things that we're more likely to create them, the more we see them, we kind of mimic them without even realizing. So kind of trying to find your own voice and your own brand in today's world is challenging.
It definitely is. And I find that a lot of people don't even understand, all the components of a brand. It's not just colors. It's not just a professional photo shoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about how you make people feel. That's how I think of it, is when someone, like you said, when someone lands on your website or your Instagram, it's what kind of feeling do they walk away with?
Right. Exactly. And it's all about the messaging too. And sometimes your messaging changes. And I think that people don't realize that, that means bring in that messaging into your branding shoots, into your content, into everything else. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a constant process of redefining. And that's what I tell people all the time is it's okay to switch your colors and your fonts like every other year, because it really is a process of refinement. And then also depending on who you want to target, which is a big component of my business, is we actually look at who you want to attract into your business, like who is the dream client for you. Depending on who that person is, your messaging and your brand is going to change. All these things change over time, and you're just constantly fine-tuning it.
And it's such I totally agree. And it's such a, I guess, a sign of growth, right? Because I was thinking, actually, it said, if you can look at your first service or your first product and you're not cringing, it means that you launched too late, which means that you just waited until you perfected something. So just remember, 80% is better than not.
I love that, right? Like, it's better to take messy action than no action at all. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I love that. And I do cringe at some of my old photos or some of my old posts. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe that's just how it was meant to be, right?
100%. If you didn't start then, you might have still been waiting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about, how did you stumble into entrepreneurship? Because I find that a lot of my guests just stumble upon it. It's not something that, you figure out from day one or from before then.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't see any like entrepreneurship growing up. I grew up in a very, very small town of 3,000 people that wasn't near any major cities or anything like that. So it was very isolated in the sense that like what was around me was just like you were working at the bank or for the government or in mining. Like my father's in mining, so that's kind of where it took us, is to these different small towns. So I found that when we finally moved to a bigger city, like that's kind of when I started to get exposed to stuff. And that's when I was exposed to photography too. My high school actually had a photography class, which was really cool, but it was working in like a darkroom at that time. So we were actually developing photos, which is crazy. It sounds so old now, but it was so great to get that real hands-on experience and like learn that technical knowledge of photography, because it doesn't get much more technical than like having to tinker with the settings on an old camera and develop photos with like the chemicals. So that was a good experience. But going throughout my like high school career, I wanted to do photography, and I wanted to be a party photographer actually, which is so hilarious that that's a real job. There was this party photographer that I really admired who like shot celebrity parties in LA. And I was like, that's the goal. That's who I want to be. And of course, when you're a teenager, you're partying, you're having fun. So I'm like, it's aligning, this is it for me. And
Right.
I don't think that everybody was as excited about that idea as I was, because a lot of my teachers and my guidance counselors were like, okay, but you still got to go to school. And I took that classic route of going to post-secondary school because I really felt like that's what I had to do in order to have a future.
Right.
So I ended up going to college right after high school, but I dropped out many times. I was in many programs. I dropped out many times. I was dealing with lots of depression and just feeling like I didn't belong in any of these institutions that I found myself in. But photography always found its way back to me.
Right.
So I was in every job that I had, like I did internships for a fashion company, which you mentioned. I worked at the RBC head office, and I was always taking photos in some capacity because someone would reach out to me, or someone would just say, to the team, hey, does anyone know how to take photos? And I'd be like, kind of. Like there was always a request for a photographer. So I just kind of was always exercising my skills in that way, even though I was incredibly nervous to do so. And then my last full-time gig that I had, I was actually working for an entrepreneur who had a very successful business at age 23. So that was incredibly inspiring to me. Yeah, she was building like a legitimate company, had multiple employees, had like a warehouse for her products. It was insane to see. And it really like planted a seed. If she could do it, I could do it too. And I just started to realize that I had my own vision, like seeing her build hers. I was like, I could do that. And I'm like, I do have my own vision that I've just been silencing for years. And it was the photography. So I quit that job on pure impulse. I was like, sorry, I can't do it no more. Put in my 2 weeks notice. And then I did the photography thing for a couple months and I couldn't sustain it at that time. So I got a part-time job. I stayed at that part-time job for about 4 years. And then I went full-time just in 2023.
23. Yeah, that's amazing. Isn't it great to see or to have access to people that are doing it? That I think this is one of the main reasons why I wanted to start doing this project. It's because I wanted to show other people that it is literally just as easy as making a decision and then just kind of going with it, going with your entrepreneurial gut, so to speak. So isn't it great that you had that experience to say, oh, this is what it takes. I can do this, you know?
Yeah, it was such an aha moment for me just to see someone that young and also see someone just figuring it out. Like she didn't have it all figured. It was messy, man. Like I was there at the beginning, we were just making stuff up as we go. And let's be real, as business owners, we're still doing that every single day. Like we're just figuring it out.
Yeah. And it's so funny that a lot of people think that, and I've actually talked about this. I recently just did a talk on the Canadian Small Business Summit, and it was all about the growth cycle. So I try to get a little bit technical, but really what it boils down to is people have either this really great talent or this really great service that they think, could make it out in the business world, and it does. So they just start running with it, right? Yeah. And then they backtrack to be like, oh yeah, maybe I do need a business plan, or oh, I need to like make a process up for that, or so you're kind of like jumping into this kind of growth, and you're experiencing growth, and you're like, whoa, hold on, I need some systems in place. So it's funny that people think that that growth is linear, and growth is not linear, right? It's like you said, you went for it, then you backtracked, then you went for it again. That is normal. That is 100% normal, and it shows that you're learning at your own pace. And if you were to do it like the next person, then we wouldn't have any creativity, any, variety in services, and especially in photography, right? I mean, it's a creative business. How can you put your spin to it if you're doing it like the person right next to you, right? So that's amazing. And we do get a little bit real sometimes on the show where we talk about some of the things that didn't go as well. And I talk about it all the time. I'm like, I've had launches where I'm just like, what happened? Right.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because you turn around and learn from them. So if you had to do it all over again, Avalon, what would you do differently to start out and to make it to this point?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes. This is a fantastic question. It's actually been on my mind and on my heart for a while now. And I've been trying to bring it, whenever I'm in a conversation with someone, I try to bring it up one way or another, because this has just been the biggest like breakthrough for me, is that we have to find our own way of doing things. Like I think the internet nowadays is so good at painting such like a black or white picture. Like you got to do it this way, or you got to do it this way. There's absolutely no gray area. And I was so stuck in that black and white zone for so long, thinking that I had to listen to like what every Instagram guru was saying. I had to hire a coach and do it exactly their way, exactly their systems. And really, you're going to find the most success. And this is what it was for me, literally in the past year. Like my business has really skyrocketed, is when I decided that I'm going to take bits and pieces that work for me, and that's it. And I'm going to make my own strategy, and I'm going to make my own process. And this year is going to be about uncovering those bits and pieces that work for me. And if I feel like there's a gap to be filled, then I'm going to hire someone. You know what I mean? Like just kind of developing your own system, your own framework of doing things. Because I think the second we try to do it like someone else and it doesn't work, then we scrap the whole thing. Or
you're also not authentic, right?
Yeah.
Right. You're also not authentic. You're not being your most authentic self. So if it's working for somebody else and you're envisioning, that it would work the same for you, you're not giving off the same energy, which is exactly what we wanted to talk about, today, which is how that vibe check. So like when you and I first met at, it was one of the brunch events, right? With the High Vibe Women. It was kind of like, oh, we just clicked, right?
Yeah.
But if I was just going to sit there and just be like everybody else who just wants to do, I don't know, that's trying to sell a course or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that. If that's all that's on your mind because you're just trying to hustle, you maybe would have not gotten to see any of my personality or any of my like, okay, yeah, let's figure something out, right?
Exactly.
So tell me, like when you're behind the lens, so I have very limited photography experience. I love photography. It was never something that I studied, but I love it. It's great. You can be super expressive. I've done a little studio photography when I was a student. Nothing compared to Avalon here. I will show you guys her website soon so you can see her portfolio. But so I can appreciate that it's very hard to stand behind the lens and make your vision come true, because it's not just clicking and letting the lens do the job, right? Like there's a whole vision. So how do you read people's vibes when they're in front of you? Like what's your like process? Because I feel like this will give everybody a little bit of an insight into what it's like to make those, end products look the way that you make them look.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it really begins, and I love that you titled this like the power of energy and presence, because energy is a big component of what I do. And it really starts like the second I start interacting with someone. I will always jump on a discovery call with people. It's
Right.
like my number one priority is like get on a face-to-face call with people, because it's so important for me that they feel my energy and that I feel their energy. If I can't feel their energy, I can't make magic for them. And the photos that really feel like magic are when I feel like I have a really deep understanding of who you are as a person, what your ultimate vision is for your business, the transformation you provide for your clients, and then also who are your dream clients. Like I really think those are 4 important pieces to hit on. And then from there, we can kind of build things out. It's when you show up and wing a brand shoot that the results are really lackluster and not inspiring, because it needs to be intentional, and it needs to be something that you sit with and that you really honor, because it really is a big deal for a lot of people to be in front of the camera. A lot of people don't love it, but I believe by sitting with that idea and really developing just how you want to show up, it becomes almost like an embodiment tool for who you want to be, how you want to show up, what you want your business to look like. So that's really the next phase of my business, is kind of positioning it as it's not just a photo shoot, it's like an embodiment tool or almost a manifestation practice of how you want your business to be. So let's start, holding ourselves to a higher standard and really show up in the way that we want to be known for.
Right. How do you make people kind of get there? Because not everybody is great.
Yeah. So I think that me doing a lot of the work has helped a lot for people just starting out. I really saw a gap in photography where, like I said before, it was kind of just this show up and shoot method. And that can be really great for people that are really comfortable, that just need a quick headshot. But I like to help people actually work through who they are and who their target client is. So we do that deep work together. And then also I'm going to be presenting you with outfit recommendations, with a mood board. I'm going to propose locations for you. Just all these elements that are going to make you feel like, okay, this girl's got it figured out. I'm feeling more confident. And then on the day of the actual shoot, in terms of posing, I do what I like to call like action-based posing. So I'm getting people to actually walk through things that they do on a daily basis, whether that be like, okay, just walk to the window, look out the window, you're playing with your hair, you're adjusting your glasses, you're writing in a notebook,
Right.
you're on your laptop. So kind of those action-based things rather than strike a pose.
Yeah.
Because that's intimidating for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's only so many like poses where you can just, stare up into the camera and have kind of like the professional headshot look, which I love. I always use a good headshot, right? And actually, though, I was trying, for some reason, it wouldn't let me tag you earlier, like a couple of weeks ago when I was using I was wearing the green dress and you took that photo of me at the brunch, and I was trying to tag you and it just wasn't letting me. I had to go back like weeks later to be like, okay, let's see if I can edit the post now. But yeah, no, it's just you made me feel comfortable right away, right? But I imagine there are other people who aren't used to even being in front of a camera or, doing this video thing all the time. So you have to kind of step into that role of like, let me guide you, let me give you what the mood is all about, which is amazing. I love that. I love that you have like a mood board, because look at some of these photos. I've been scrolling, for anybody listening, I've just been scrolling through Avalon's website, and they're just so animated and, still very professional. But look at this. I can just tell who these people are just by looking at them, reading their vibe, their energy. And what are some of the like don'ts? What are the big don'ts that you kind of tell people to avoid
when getting their photos
what
done?
shouldn't we do? You know what I mean? When we're doing these kinds of branding development.
Yeah, I think that kind of to touch on what we were talking about before, I think that just mimicking something just because it's popular or trending is dangerous, because it's not going to feel like you. It's going to look good, but I find that when we just jump on board these trends, is they have an expiration date, because another trend's going to roll around and then you're going to feel like you have to do that one in order to keep things fresh and exciting. But if you really like do some deep digging, like meditate on like, what is true for me? What do I like? Look at your home. Your home is usually a good representation. And then you create out of that place instead of just what you're seeing everywhere else, then that's going to give you a much more satisfactory and a long lasting result. So I would say, don't be so quick to jump on every single trend.
Right. And it's so funny. We talked about this with other people about how you can nurture your community, and it's not about doing the trends. A lot of us service-based businesses don't fit in the creative category. And even if you do, your niche might be completely different, and it's not appropriate to jump on all of these trends, right? Like I always struggle with the whole, I come from the corporate world, and even just the way that you answer emails is very different. And now after 4 years of full time of this, I'm finally breaking away from the very formal introductions and very formal speak and how you sign off. And it's more like, hey, how's it going? Was wondering if you could do this, blah, blah, blah. Right. And that's just more my personality and how I want to come across, rather than, be stuck in that this is what you're supposed to do. And it's the same thing with, that's like the other end of the spectrum versus the trends, right? Like the trends are usually pretty entertaining and wild versus the like good afternoon type of situation, right?
As for my last email,
yeah. So it's so funny that you say that, because some of them I think are okay, and I think I can attest to this. It was really weird last year. I think at the end of the year, I think I got about 4 or 5 different projects right smack dab November, December, because they were on my Instagram. And I was like, wow, my Instagram is converting weirdly well for somebody that is just doing her own thing. And I just remember somebody said, I went through some of your stuff and I thought you were relatable. And there was one reel where, this was even before this, where I think it was like that audio trend of, it's been a long day, and it's like screaming it, but I'm just like scrolling through all like my notifications, and I'm pretending I'm actually drinking apple juice, but like it looks like I'm drinking wine. And they're and someone said, it's like, oh, I felt like I could hang out with you, so that's why I wanted to work with you. I was like, that's fair. You would never hear that straight up in the corporate world, even though people still very much buy from you, not, from your service necessarily. But you would never hear it. It was just more like of a professional kind of tone. So it's kind of like you have to find that balance, right?
Yeah.
You have to not go crazy with the dancing on TikTok, but also like not sway the other way where everyone's like, you're a robot. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it all relates back to that energy, because someone could feel your energy in that piece of content, and it's so potent, and we're all so desensitized to marketing, and we could cut through the clutter right away. Like, we know what's advertisement and we know what's like not true. Like, I feel like our radars for that stuff is very, very heightened, because a lot of the social media culture now is self-promotion. Like, we're all promoting our businesses, we're all promoting our courses or whatever we're doing, right? So I think that the more relatable we can be, it kind of cuts through that clutter and gets
some
directly
of the noise
to that human piece. And that's the reason why we all got on social media in the first place. Like, we're humans wanting to connect with other humans. So let's not lose touch with that.
Yeah. Can I also say something that I don't know if you necessarily agree with it or not, but the amount of content, like, it doesn't have to be so much. It doesn't have to, fill my feed. I actually don't get through my feed. I never get to the posts that I'm like, oh, I've already seen this. You know what I mean? Because I don't have the time. There's just so much that I'm scrolling through. And I think it just needs to be more focused on, are you providing the value? And like, I understand announcements and whatnot. And this is why it's really important to have some sort of strategy. And I think this is also the reason why I love that you provide a mood board, because those are like draft notes. So like, this is what we're trying to portray. So like, feel it, absorb it, feel it, show it. It's the same with social media. After, when you use these photos or this messaging, it's like, what is the strategy here? And I'm not talking about like being sneaky. I'm talking like, if you're posting 10 posts in a row and they're all just advertising the same event that you're having, it's probably not going to be as effective as having 3 of those plus 7 that are attracting new faces to your profile, because they're like, oh, this makes so much sense. I want to save this post to do it later, or I want to share. I'm notorious for, like, I don't have time, but I think something's really good, so I'll just share it on my stories, because I think I can always look back in highlights, right? But I don't know if other people do that, but there's just so much that's happening. Have some sort of strategy. So if that starts with how your pictures look, I think that's a good place to start. And I speak to a lot of people that are just starting out, and the first thing that they want is a logo. And it's like, sometimes it makes sense because they need to, right? And sometimes it doesn't, because it's more like, okay, but what are you offering? What is your offering? Do you know what I mean? So it's just funny how that works. And same thing with photos. It's like, oh, I don't need a branding shoot right now, or I don't need but they're developing a website. I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course you need one. Like, of course you need to have something up there. And not to knock on, like, stock photos. I think stock photos are amazing, and they are shot by photographers that are putting their work out there and in that specific area of photography. But if you have a personal brand, it's very hard to put that across with stock photos.
Yeah, it's true, because you've got to be the face of your brand. So
right.
And ultimately, like what we were talking about before, that's what's going to make that connection, is when you become the face of your brand, whether you have a product or a service-based business, people are always, 90% of the time, they're going to connect with a real person over, the other stuff, like the products or the services. It's just human nature, and we buy with our emotions. And what's more emotional than like sharing yourself and your struggles and your story? So it just makes sense.
I love that. I love the we buy with our emotions. I love that. We should put that on. We should put that on a t-shirt. Next time you're influenced online, you need to remember you're buying with your emotions.
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And like, think
Yeah,
about
yeah,
like a big purchase that you've made within the last year. You know what I mean? Think about it. And it's
yeah.
like, what made you ultimately buy that? It was like
Right,
usually because you felt some sort of way, like you felt like it was going to change your life,
right.
or you felt like you were entering like a new phase of your life, or it was going to
Yeah,
make your life easier, more filled with joy. It was going to make you more confident. Like there's always underlying emotions. Usually we do buy things just because they're practical, of course. But
right.
when we buy things that are practical, it's like we're looking for, that's when the price shopping happens. Like we're looking for the cheapest option. But usually when we buy something that's like a higher ticket item, it's like we're excited about it. Unless, of course, it's like
Right.
changing your tires or something, buying winter tires. Like, I don't think anyone feels kind of any way about that, but
No,
we
you
just
know what
have
it
to.
is for me? I'm sitting here like listening patiently to you, being like, yeah, yeah, big purchases, but I'm looking at like my cosmetics cart. I was like, I really felt like I needed 6 new shades of this lipstick. And it was like when you were talking about like you felt like it was going to change your life. I do feel like it's going to change my life daily, but it's an
Yes.
emotional thing. It's very much perceived in my head that I think that this is going to put my vibe out there and a little bit more. And for
Yeah,
me, it's confidence, right? For me, it's confidence that puts it through.
exactly. You can trace it
Yes,
back to
yes,
confidence. And then
yeah,
so
yeah,
now that's where we see like this new wave of marketing. A lot of people are playing into emotions versus just selling the products, features, and benefits. Because if you look at the way marketing used to be, it used to be, oh, buy this household cleaner because it cleans better than other products. It smells lemony
right,
fresh and it kills
right,
99% of bacteria. But now it's like, do you want more time with your family? Do you want to live in a toxic free home? You know what I mean? Like it's
right,
playing
right.
on those emotions more because ultimately
Yes.
that's what moves people.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I was reading something about how some of these really big brand names, they're not selling you what you're getting. They're selling you convenience, or they're selling you
Mm-hmm.
happiness, or they're selling you status. Like a lot of the luxurious brands, they're not
Yeah,
selling you the actual thing.
absolutely.
They're selling you status, right? So it's kind of like you kind of have to think of it like that. And especially when you're doing branding, it's like what are you selling there, right? Before we go on though,
Mm-hmm.
I've been putting up. So, hi, Mel. Thanks so much for tuning in. People are just sending in their comments there. Amazing.
Hello.
And it's also 1:37. We're past the halfway mark here, which I knew this was going to happen. It happens every time. We have such a great time that we forget. So let's just do a quick station intro for anybody that's tuning in. You are listening to Negotiating Happiness. I'm your host, Adriana, and we're here on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network at One Orleans. And find us on Roku TV. Some of our shows are already on there if you want to watch us on your big screen TV. And I am here with my guest, Avalon. From Avalon Mohns Photography. And we are talking all about the vibe check and how to kind of bring your energy into your brand to either invite the ideal client in and or not. I also talk about this too. It's okay if your vibe says no to certain people because you just wouldn't mesh well in a working relationship. So that's
Mm-hmm.
okay too. If your website or your vibe like turns anybody away, it is for a reason. I'm a big believer of that. Especially if you've experienced growth as an entrepreneur and you're at the point where you don't have you're not feeling like you're hustling for absolutely everything and you're
Yeah.
saying yes to everything. It's better for your clients now because you're more focused, you have intention into a specific product or service. It's great to see entrepreneurs get to that point where they're not struggling for every single one of those sales or proposals or whatever it is that you want to talk about, right? So we've gone a little bit over your entrepreneurship journey. We talked about how to be authentic and how to show up, and I think confidence has a lot to do with it too.
Mm-hmm.
How you're trying to portray confidence into this kind of branding development. And it's not just about the photographs, as we've talked about. It's how you use them after. It's using those mood boards to kind of make sure that everything matches and is still you, you know, and your authentic self.
Mhm.
But also, let's talk about what you've got in the works for next, right? So what is it that you're working on that we can look forward to?
Yeah, so I am working on a few different things. I'm actually going to be expanding my audience and educating brand photographers because I've had a lot of requests for mentorship and trainings just about how I do things, because my process is a little bit more in depth than I've seen a lot of other photographers do it. So I would love to teach that to other brand photographers and
Yeah.
help their clients get a little bit deeper on, you know, why are we doing these photos? Like, what is the message that you ultimately want to portray with these photos? Let's make them really intentional, really attractive to your ideal client, and make them as kind of like a goalpost of where you want to go in your business. Because as I mentioned before, like, I think that it's a very powerful embodiment tool, and it's a way for us to kind of foreshadow like who we want to be in the future. So with that in mind as well, I would like to incorporate more manifestation tools into my work as well. I'm a big manifestation girly, so if you're into the woo woo, then I am the girl for you. I could talk about it all day long. So I'm very into meditation.
I love that. I actually watched your stories last night briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to incorporate that.
I was watching your stories last night briefly, and it was showing you amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry, you cut out a little bit there. You were saying you were watching my stories, and it was.
Yeah, sorry, it's cutting out because I'm trying to show your website at the same time here just to see some of your portfolio because I love it. But what I was saying is I was watching your stories last night and you were showing your notebooks and like techniques for manifestation. And I was just sitting there thinking, you know, it's so funny how maybe a couple of years ago, manifestation just seemed like more on the woo-woo side. But if you think about it, you're literally rewriting your how your brain thinks and what your goals are. So that's what's really happening. And it's in your, and you're using that energy to say, this is where I want to be at. So start making those decisions to get me there. And sometimes when I explain it that way to people, they get it. And they're like, oh, okay, it's not just woo-woo. But at the same time, it is kind of woo-woo because we don't really, you know, I think, I don't know, we just need a little bit of magic to get through the day sometimes. And sometimes thinking like, hey, me putting this out into the universe will deliver. And I love looking at it that way as well, right?
100%. Yeah. And you could summarize it as simple as like when you're optimistic about opportunities in your life, they show up. Like, you can't tell me that if you wake up on the wrong side of the bed one morning, your day isn't terrible. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like sitting in that negativity, it tends to show up more often. And I'm not saying that everything is just like happen chance and everything just is like, you know, random in that way. But like when you have positivity, I think in your mind, it's like those opportunities start showing up. And for me, I am much better equipped to work on my business, to show up in my relationships, to give back to others in the world when I'm in a positive mindset. When I'm in a negative mindset, that stuff don't happen. Like, I'm sorry, but like, you have to fill up your cup before you can give to others. And I think that meditation and manifestation and self-care practices, that's exactly what they do. So you can give unto others.
Right. Exactly. Which is amazing. So we talked about your course, right? You want to put that out there to help fellow brand photographers. Was there something else? I don't even remember what we talked about. Help me out.
That was pretty much it. And then I got off on a tangent of manifestation.
No, well, I mean, that should probably be in every single every single practice that you have, right? It's so funny. I talk about, scheduling out your calendar. I learned this from really successful entrepreneurs, right? And one of the first people that I kind of learned how to do is from Jill Wise. She's a copywriter and business strategist, right? She's so smart and she's so great and she's so cool. Her vibe has all of the checks. And you can kind of create what your week looks like, and having those CEO days where you can focus on development stuff. This is where this stuff fits in. So to me, this stuff is so fun. It's kind of like, what do I want the world to look at that represents me? How do I want it to go about, like, my services, my branding, my website, my course, my whatever the case it may be that I'm working on. So it's so funny. We're supposed to have CEO Mondays, and this is Monday, and I typically was like, oh, I'll just put in like the radio show in there, and then the rest is all development. But it's so funny because it just takes so much more than that, and your brain as an entrepreneur is always on. So you're always thinking of like, oh, I have to improve that. But what a great creative little bit to focus on that will then bring you so much more, which is this. It's like, is your brand okay? Do I need an audit? Do I need to figure out what I'm missing? Like, I would also highly recommend, and I don't know if you do this, correct me if you don't, but if you guys are not sure, get in contact with Avalon and be like, hey, what does this scream this to you? What do you think I could do better in my next, photo shoot or in my next project, that kind of thing. And, get a professional's opinion, because there's only so much that we can do in our already overloaded brain. Right. Highly recommend that. And it's not, and again, I think it used to be that, photography was just that, where you got a couple of headshots, but that was kind of in the corporate world. This isn't the corporate world anymore. We have to have messaging. We have to have some responsibility to, our brand and our marketing and to what we're looking for as well. Right. So this is a way to start out, to say, okay, you know what, New Year's coming around. What do I need to do to upgrade my look, to kind of have all of it match the rest of what I'm like. If I'm providing, like, look at these, like, for anybody that's listening, I'm still on Avalon's website. I'm just looking at her portfolio. I'm like, look at these entrepreneurs. They all inspire confidence, but I have to say, damn, they look good. Like, look at all of them. Absolutely all of them here. You know what I mean? It's not just like a corporate thing. It's look how confident they are. Every time I look at them, it's like, they know what they're doing. They're putting that out for me. So I'm hoping that when I use their services, they can then represent me and do the same thing. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, again, those emotions, like, and this is why my style really varies from photo to photo. You won't see, like, some of them will be a little bit more moody. Some of them will be kind of retro looking. They're all different because we're trying to invoke different emotions in every single one of them, because I've done that work with each one of these clients to be like, what does your ideal client or your ideal follower or whatever it may be, what do they need to feel from you to know that you are the person for them? So that's why every photo for every brand is going to look different, and it shouldn't look the same.
It should look different. It should, because it's their own. It's kind of like, for me, right, when I put together solutions for people, and that's why sometimes it's hard to put it all into a proposal, because proposals are meant to be standard, right? But it's basically just a shell until you put the actual custom solution in. So it's hard sometimes, because you need to get to know the person first, and how they run their business and what they would like it to look like, before you can kind of put together that proposal to say, I think this is the solution for you. And it's similar, right, with your brand. You want to make sure that it resonates with them, but you also want to make sure it's that, like, next level, because that's what they're looking to get. It's the next level up from here, right? So that's amazing.
Exactly. So, another thing that I'm offering next year actually is going to be like a kind of a mini course, or I don't know how I'm going to structure it yet, but I'm thinking like a mini course on how to plan your own brand shoot. So if you don't want to hire me as your photographer, or you kind of want to DIY things, because I get it. We all start out somewhere, and I'm all for DIYing stuff. But I want to give people like a blueprint of here's how you can do this yourself. Here's how you can look at things more intentionally and build out a brand shoot that is really going to work for you in the long term, because it's an investment, and I don't take that lightly. I want these photos to make you feel confident, to bring in more aligned clients, and to just, you know, be that missing piece for kind of all the promotions and your website, that thing that's really going to, like you said, take you to the next level. So
yeah, that's awesome. And especially for people who, you know, who were kind of still where you were when you were having a part-time job, but then also still doing this on this side, this might be something that's really great for them, because it allows them to have their hands in everything at the beginning, right? Because as you grow, you obviously want to kind of remove some of that to gain some of your time back, to be able to spend some time outside of the business, make sure that the business is running on its own. But with I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties today. This camera just doesn't want to sit where it's supposed to sit. Sorry. You know, you would probably want something like that to say, hey, I want to learn how to do this first, and then I'm going to see what the results are. And then maybe next time when I have the funds to put the investment in, I want to do it properly. And then, you know, I like the look of this. I like that. I want to go ahead and go for it. And then it'll make a really big impact. But honestly, the best thing that people can do is audit what their resources look like and just work towards that, because unfortunately a lot of us don't start out with any capital whatsoever, and we kind of have to go make it happen as we go, right? So that's a great idea to kind of do, to kind of gear it towards, you know, the beginners or the people who just haven't hit that threshold where they're like, I have enough like of a resource to invest it into my next, you know, my next kind of what I want my marketing to look like. Yeah,
absolutely. It's always been really important to me to be accessible to everyone at every point in their business, because I know how important it's been for me to really step into my brand and be authentic. And I've seen the kind of ripple effect that has on everything. So I really just want to, you know, have every business owner have that.
Yeah. So we're getting close to the end here. And I typically ask, you know, what makes you happy, and not you as the entrepreneur or, you know, the partner, sister, mom, whatever it is, just you as the individual. What do you do that kind of makes all of this worth it, this balance? Because this has to bring out some sort of balance. So sometimes I get really wacky answers like, oh, I wake up at 5 a.m. and like work out, and that's my me time. And I'm like, oh God, that sounds awful, but I'm so glad it brings you joy. You know what I mean? So what's that one thing that makes it for you?
Oh, I love that. That's such a good question. And I love that you're acknowledging that everybody's looks different.
Totally.
Yeah, because it's so true. And just accepting that, okay, that might be your thing, but that's not my thing. And that's okay. We can all coexist, right?
I think it's part of your brand. It's part of your brand. If if you're saying to me, I am that person that makes time for balance and for health, great, amazing. I want to know that. I think a lot of clients appreciate that. If you're the person that says, oh, I go on golf trips like every time I can, and I was like, oh, great, maybe we can relate to that. So what's your thing? Like what makes all of this craziness worth it to you?
Yeah. So for me, we did talk about a little bit with like the manifestation stuff is I'm actually like I'm quite a spiritual person in a sense that I really like to feel deeply connected to everything around me. So I have to be very intentional about carving out space to do that. And I usually do that through meditation, but I find like
amazing
exercise and just like mindfulness, just daily mindfulness is another way where you can feel just like truly centered and connected. And doing that
Right.
for me, like meditating each morning, which is something that I try to do. I'm not perfect with it, but I know how I feel without it, and I know how I feel with it. And I much prefer how I
Yeah.
feel with it than without it. So that's what drives me to do it every single day. And it has an incredible ripple effect on everything, on my work, on my life, how deeply I can connect to other people, how present and intentional I can be in conversations. It truly
Right.
affects everything around me. So the more time I could take to just like get still and be with myself and connect to something bigger than myself as well, I find that that is when I'm the happiest.
Right. That's amazing. I do love that. I do love a good meditation session. I don't make as much time for it as I should, but it's literally science. It's been proven how
Yeah.
beneficial it is to your brain. So if you've ever been curious about it, I highly recommend as well.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I think like my happy place is travel, right? But I feel like this is a generic answer, but
Love it.
find I do find bits of happiness in pretty much the little things. So I'm going to
Mhm.
sound so corny, but for me, it's like the other day I was watching a sunset and I was like, oh my God, how beautiful is this? And I was like, Adriana, what if anybody heard you right now? I would just be like, okay, you're so cringy. But it's true. You have to find these moments that
Yeah.
are like I am sitting here unbothered, not bothering anybody, just existing and watching this beautiful sunset, and I can breathe and I'm okay. And and it's almost like you're practicing gratefulness, right? You're almost like, I'm
Yeah.
good with where I am, and this is beautiful. And the fact that I can enjoy that, maybe it's a privilege. A lot of people can't do that right now, especially with the state of the world, right? So
Mhm.
I just appreciate it. But that's awesome. I do love, I think I need to practice a bit more mindfulness with things. However, I've been getting really good at doing things with intention. We're no longer just doing things to do them or seeing
Mhm.
people just to see them. They have to have an intention, and that's kind of what propels you forward, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that it makes things really clear. I love that you mentioned that because I actually do have a practice as well. Before I go into every single shoot, I say, okay, what's my intention for this shoot? Because before I would actually get very anxious because there's lots of moving parts to a photo
Yeah.
shoot. Like many
Yeah.
things in business, I'm sure you do a million things that have a
Yeah.
million moving parts, and we could
Yeah.
get really overwhelmed by that.
Yeah.
So I think setting an intention and then executing on just that
Mhm.
intention, it's magical in a sense that when you fulfill that intention, everything else just kind of falls into place
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're in this good calm energy, like you can problem solve, you can just do things better when I feel like you're in that space. So I love the intention setting piece that you just mentioned.
Yeah. And it's once it becomes a habit, it just makes sense. If it
Yeah.
just makes sense. It's only when it's not a habit yet that it takes a little bit of getting used to. But once you realize that it works the same way with food too. When people have, you know, um, I'm an emotional eater, so I mean, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. But if you set out the intention, it's kind of like, okay, like push the noise aside, right? If it doesn't go along with
Mhm.
my intention, it really does help. It helps to rewire the way you think about things. And it's great to hear that. And also for photography, everything is timed. If you're not getting the things that you need to in that time frame, it's kind of stressful because you're like, I'm not going to get them for another session. So I better, get it together now. So I totally
Yeah.
get that. Yeah, I get that. I think I think wedding photography is probably the most stressful thing that I can think of
That's why I don't do it.
in the creativity realm, because you can't recreate that. You can't just
Mm-mm.
reschedule them in. It's like it's gone, So stressful. Just
Yeah,
anxiety to
it's
the max.
it's not for me. Like I do small
No.
weddings for people that I know within kind of my network,
Sure,
but I'm like,
sure.
I gotta make sure it's like under 100 people. Like, is the couple chill? It,
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Do I know the
Yeah.
vibe? Like, is it relaxed?
Yeah.
Because for me, that's not where my gifts lie. I know that my gift is not wedding photography, it's brand photography. So to me, to go out and do wedding photography for people, I actually feel like it's a disservice to them, and I'd rather have them choose someone else over me. 100%.
Right. And that just comes along with the territory of knowing who you are, what your business is and whatnot, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people take a long time to get there. So that's amazing to hear. Well, I think we're all out of time here. Thank you so much for coming on. I had a really fun time, and I'm sure there's a ton more topics that we could cover. So I'm inviting you back here live if you want to come back.
I would love to.
Yeah, once you've got some of your other projects in, we'd love to hear about it. And thank you to everyone that tuned in on Instagram. I see a lot of familiar faces too. And for everybody that said hi to us, we always appreciate it when you guys come in with your questions or just hellos. And thank you so much to the platform, everybody at the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network. We will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everybody.
Thank you.